I always imagined having a perfect family in our quiet little town. As a teacher, I dedicate my life to my students, while at home, I share space with my mom, Laura, and my brother, Philip. Mom, always affectionate, completely changes when I ask about our past. Philip? He seems to live on another planet, avoiding any deeper topics. Sometimes during our Sunday lunches, I notice strange glances between them, conversations interrupted when I enter the room, and an unexplainable tension in the air. For years, I pretended not to notice these small cracks in our apparent family harmony. In the dusty silence of the attic, my world collapsed. Among yellowed photographs and forgotten boxes, I found the letter that would change everything. My hands trembled, the paper revealing a secret so heavy it felt like it was sucking all the air from the room. My father, the one I always imagined as a heroic figure, killed in a tragic accident, was actually alive and convicted of crimes I could never have imagined. The innocence of my memory fragmented with every word, every line exposing a brutal truth that left me vulnerable and betrayed. In that moment, I understood that my family was not a sanctuary of love, but a theater of carefully constructed lies. The initial shock paralyzed me like a statue of ice. The letter trembled in my hands, each word burning my skin, melting the innocence that had accompanied me for years. My father was not the hero I imagined, nor the victim of a tragic fate. He was a criminal, a man who chose the easier path, abandoning everything and everyone. Tears did not come, only an immense emptiness, like a black hole inside me, sucking away memories, certainties, references. How could everything I built collapse in seconds? Did my family protect me? No, my family trapped me in a lie. Anger began to bubble slowly, first like a whisper, then like a deafening internal scream. How could they? How could Mom, Laura, and Philip keep this silent all these years? How many times did they smile at me, feigning normalcy, while carrying this heavy secret? Interesting, I thought with a bitter irony. My entire life was an elaborate theater. Every Sunday lunch, every casual conversation, all orchestrated to maintain the facade. And I, naive, believing wholeheartedly in family perfection. The initial vulnerability began to give way to a strength I didn't even know existed. I would no longer be Beatrice the good girl, submissive, who accepted everything silently. I wanted answers. I would demand the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I looked at the letter again. Each line was a scar, each word a challenge. My father did not define me. His mistakes would not be my sentence. I decided I would turn this pain into fuel. I would no longer be the passive victim of a story told to me in half-truths. I would be the protagonist of my own narrative. The teacher in me knew. The truth always finds a way, and I would find it, even if it meant dismantling the entire family structure that imprisoned me. Tears finally rolled down, but not from fragility, from liberation. Family life had always felt like a maze of silences, but now it was transforming into a minefield of revelations. The school corridors, once a refuge of peace, became a stage for sidelong glances and whispers, laden with judgment. Every step I took seemed to echo with the weight of the discovered secret. Philip, my brother, had become a walking enigma. When I finally confronted him, his words were like shards of glass, sharp and fragmented. "It was about time we knew the truth," he murmured, only to retreat, like a wounded animal trying to protect itself. His ambiguity left me even more frustrated, each attempt at dialogue yielding more questions than answers. The whispers spread like fire on dry grass. In the teacher's lounge, in the school hallways, I noticed furtive glances, low comments, that abruptly ceased when I approached. My life had transformed into an involuntary spectacle, my pain consumed as entertainment by an audience eager for drama. Loneliness embraced me with a chilling intimacy. Every childhood memory that once seemed bright was now stained by a shadow of doubt. How could I separate the true memories from the carefully constructed lies? My family had turned me into a stranger within my own story, but something inside me began to change. The initial pain yielded to reconstructive anger. I would no longer be the silent victim of a narrative stolen from me. Each sidelong glance, each wilted whisper became fuel for my determination. I decided to investigate. I would no longer accept crumbs of truth. If my family refused to speak, I would find the answers myself. My work as a teacher taught me that the truth always finds a way, no matter how winding. The initial vulnerability gave way to a strength I didn't even know was within me. I would no longer be Beatrice who accepted everything quietly. I demanded the complete truth, unfiltered, unprotected. Ironically, the secret that should have destroyed me was transforming me. Each family barrier that arose, I tore down with the precision of someone who knows every brick, every foundation. I would no longer be a hostage of a story told in half-truths. The teacher in me knew, knowledge is power, and I was about to empower myself completely. The silence in the living room was deafening. Every breath seemed to contain decades of suffocated secrets. I looked at Laura and Philip, my trembling hands clutching the letter that revealed the truth about my father. "We need to talk," I said, my voice a mix of fragility and determination. Laura's expression was a mosaic of guilt and fear. Philip looked away, like a child caught in a lie. I decided not to give them time to evade. "I want the truth, all of it, now." Laura tried to soften the moment, her trembling hands adjusting. A teacup that no one had asked for. A gesture so pathetic in its protection that it almost made me laugh at the sadness. "Your father wasn't a monster," she began, her voice choked. "He was a complex man who made terrible choices seeking acceptance." My sarcasm cut through the air. What a lovely excuse for criminality. Philip, previously silent, finally spoke. His words were shards of glass, sharp and fragmented. "It was about time we knew the truth," he murmured, only to retreat like a wounded animal trying to protect itself. The conversation turned into an emotional torrent. Tears, accusations, truths hurting like knives. Each revelation deconstructed memories. Each word redefined my family history. "You robbed me of the right to know my own father," I denounced. "You built a narrative where I was just an unconscious spectator." Laura was crying silently. Philip, motionless, seemed like a statue of guilt, but I was no longer the fragile girl accepting crumbs of truth. My initial vulnerability transformed into devastating strength. Each secret revealed was a brick less in the wall of lies imprisoning me. "Enough," I declared, my voice firm as a clenched fist. "I am not a victim of your story. I am the author of my own narrative." In that moment, I realized that the truth did not destroy. It liberated. Loneliness enveloped me like a thick fog, suffocating any remnants of hope that still insisted on existing. Each corridor of the school transformed into a maze of twisted looks, cutting whispers that echoed like invisible knives. The low comments, abruptly interrupted when I approached, felt like little stabs at my already fragile dignity. Philip, my own brother, now seemed a stranger. His words, when we finally met, were fragmented and enigmatic. "It was about time we knew the truth," he would murmur, only to retreat like an animal cornered. His ambiguity left me on the brink of emotional precipice, each attempt at dialogue resulting in more questions than answers. The initial pain began to yield to a rage that simmered in my guts. I would no longer be Beatrice the submissive, the one who swallowed every crumb of family silence. My life would not be defined by my father's secrets, nor by the carefully woven lies of my family. Interesting, I thought with an ironic smile, how people love turning tragedies into fifth-rate spectacles. The whispers in the hallways, the sidelong glances, everything became fuel for my determination. If they thought they could break me, they were terribly mistaken. I decided I would investigate every inch of that story. My work as a teacher taught me that the truth always finds its way, no matter how winding it may be. Every document, every memory would be a piece of the family puzzle that had been stolen from me. The initial vulnerability yielded to a strength I didn't even know existed. I would no longer accept being a puppet in a theater of lies. I wanted complete answers, unfiltered, unprotected. My pain would transform into power, my silence into voice. The murmurs of the town, once a threatening whisper, now sounded like music to my ears. Each judgmental look, each low comment, became energy for my transformation. I would no longer be the silent victim of a stolen narrative. Ironically, the secret that should have destroyed me was rebuilding me. Each familial barrier that arose, I would tear down with the precision of someone who knows every brick, every foundation. The teacher in me knew, knowledge is power, and I was about to empower myself completely. The tears that once flowed from fragility were now tears of liberation. I would no longer hide in the shadows of a past that did not belong to me. My story would be written by my own hands, with the ink of truth and the strength of resilience. I discovered that true courage lay not in hiding, but in confronting. And I would confront, regardless of the cost. In a moment of despair and crisis, I finally confronted Philip. Our clash began as a tense whisper, almost a dialogue of shadows, and quickly transformed into a storm of repressed emotions. Tears streamed down my face as my brother, voice trembling, revealed layers of a past that imprisoned us. "I always knew," he said, "but I felt completely unprepared to protect you and deal with all this truth." His words were like shards of glass, sharp and fragmented. Every revelation shattered another piece of the idealized image I had built about our family. The pain was sharp, but something inside me began to pulse differently, a strength emerging from the very suffering. "Protect?" I questioned with bitter irony. "Do we protect by lying? By hiding?" Philip looked down, defeated. I then realized he too carried invisible scars, wounds that were not just mine, but ours. The conversation transformed. From the initial clash emerged an almost inexplicable understanding. I realized that letting the past dictate our lives would not be the solution. Forgiveness was not merely a gift, it was a necessity for survival. In that moment, something within me finally broke, not to make me lesser, but to rebuild me bigger. Each secret revealed was a chain breaking. I would no longer be a hostage to a story told in half-truths. I realized that our family was not perfect, but it was real, and reality, no matter how painful, had the power to set us free. The catharsis of that moment produced a transformative epiphany. We were not victims, we were survivors, and survivors move forward. I decided that would be our last conversation as victims. From then on, we would be conquerors of our own narrative. The decision to confront our family truth began as a hesitant whisper, but quickly transformed into a scream of liberation. Philip, my brother, always so enigmatic, finally began to lower. His defenses, our gazes, once loaded with hurt and distrust, now found common ground of understanding. "We need to reclaim our father's memory," Philip said, his voice trembling, revealing a vulnerability he had never let show. Together, we decided to seek the documents and records that could give us a more complete view of the history that had been hidden from us for so long. Mom, Laura, initially reluctant, began to open up. Her stories, once kept as precious secrets, now flowed like a gentle, powerful river. Each word from her peeled away the layers of lies that surrounded us, revealing a complex man, not a hero, nor an absolute villain, but someone deeply human in his imperfections. The whispers of the town, which once tormented me, lost their power. Each sidelong glance, each malicious comment transformed into fuel for my determination. At school, my students became silent witnesses to my transformation. I realized that my pain could be converted into a lesson of resilience. Our search was not just for documents, but for reconciliation. Philip and I discovered that true healing did not lie in condemning our father, but in understanding his humanity. Mom, Laura, slowly regained the peace she had lost years ago, as if each revelation freed her from an invisible weight. The documents we found were not just dusty papers, but fragments of a family story that needed to be reimagined. Every legal record, every old photograph told us more than words could express. Our father was not just the criminal they led us to believe, but someone who had lost himself in misguided choices. The transformation was palpable. Our family, once a minefield of secrets, was now being redrawn as a space of mutual understanding. The Sunday lunches, once loaded with silent tension, gained new tones of complicity and acceptance. I realized that true strength lay not in hiding, but in confronting. Each secret revealed was one less layer of pain. Each frank conversation brought us closer to healing. Our family's story would no longer be defined by what was hidden from us, but by what we chose to understand. Life presents challenges not to destroy us, but to rebuild us. And we were rebuilding, brick by brick, memory by memory, with the courage of those who understand that the truth, no matter how painful it may be, always liberates us. As the years passed, I discovered that truth is not a destination, but a journey. My life transformed radically since that moment in the attic when I found the letter about my father. What once seemed like a fatal wound became my greatest source of strength and reinterpretation. As a teacher, I began using my own story to connect with students who also carry silent family pains. Every story of abandonment or secret I heard made me understand that I was not alone. My work transitioned from just a profession to a mission of healing and understanding. Philip and Laura, my brother and my mother, also transformed. Together, we began to deconstruct the narrative of shame that imprisoned us. We no longer wanted to be hostages to a past that had been imposed upon us. We decided to reframe my father's memory not as a criminal, but as a complex human being who also suffered and erred. Our family gatherings, once filled with tension, now became moments of openness and honesty. We learned that forgiveness does not mean forgetting, but understanding, that the truth, no matter how painful it may be, has an incomparable, liberating power. The society of our small town, so accustomed to judging and whispering, slowly began to notice our transformation. The sidelong glances gave way to a silent respect. We discovered that the courage to face our internal demons is far more powerful than any gossip or prejudice. Today I look back and see a completely different woman. That fragile Beatrice, lost in the maze of family lies, has given way to someone resilient, compassionate, and truly free. The secrets that once imprisoned us are now merely chapters in a larger story of overcoming. I learned that family is not about perfection, but about choice. The choice to love, to forgive, to grow together. And that choice, I discovered, is the greatest act of courage we can make. I discovered that truth is not a wound, but a path to healing. My family kept secrets for years, but today I understand that silence does not define me. My father's mistakes will not be my inheritance. I transformed every tear into strength, every lie into learning. I am now the owner of my story, free from the chains of the past, ready to reinterpret my existence with courage and compassion.